I've got a Valium pill here that you might want to take before the second round. Just a suggestion, sir.
I would hope that that doesn't set the tone for the session.
The Cayman entity was set up to accommodate nonprofit and pension funds that want to invest through offshore and a certain number of
offshore.
So
you helped others avoid paying taxes.
Again, I'm not going to make a comment. Again, they didn't avoid. They followed the law.
Okay. Did you buy the stock, and then did you introduce a bill that would be helpful to the companies you just bought stock in?
The stock was bought by a broker who was making those decisions. I wasn't making those decisions.
And these are your stock trades, though. They are listed under your name, right?
They're made on my behalf, yes.
Okay.
We're a compassionate society.
No, we are not a compassionate society. In terms of our relationship to poor and working people, our record is worse than virtually any other country on earth.
I support accountability.
Equal accountability for all schools that receive federal funding.
I support accountability.
Okay, is that a yes or no?
I support accountability.
Do you not want to answer my question?
You can't say definitively today that guns shouldn't be in schools?
I would imagine that there's probably a gun in the school to protect from potential grizzlies.
Is Vladimir Putin a war criminal?
I would not use that term.
Are you aware that people who oppose Vladimir Putin wind up dead all over the world? Do you think that was coincidental?
I am not willing to make conclusions on what is only publicly available or have been publicly reported.
None of this is classified, Mr. Tillerson.
Okay, there you get a flavor. Yes, it is Sunday night, and yes, you're watching Special Report. Welcome back. Our inauguration special continues. When President Obama, oh my gosh, I can't even say President Obama. 8 years.
Sorry,
it just, here we go. When President Trump, my apologies, starts his first full business workday tomorrow, he will not have all the pieces in place that he had hoped. That's because cabinet nominees, and take a look at all of the nominees, he only has 2 of them that have been approved by the Senate. They've been slow walking the cabinet confirmation process. The 2 who are in, General Kelly and General Mattis, Homeland Security and Defense. We're back with the panel. Katie.
Looking at the way that some of these hearings were handled this week, and based on what Chuck Schumer is saying is an excuse not to have Trump's nominees in place by the time he took over this weekend, it seems very clear it's all about politics and trying to protect President Obama's legacy and a mission that is not going to be fulfilled. These nominees should have been confirmed before President Trump came into power, based on, I think, one example this week with Tom Price, with Al Franken essentially saying that he was responsible for the deaths of millions of Americans because he had at some point 20 years ago owned Philip Morris stock in a mutual fund that was managed by someone else, and therefore he was disqualified from being in charge of Health and Human Services. Really, I think, give you a very good example of the shallow arguments that Democrats have been making all week when it comes to the majority of President Trump's nominees.
I mean, there were 7, really 6, because Bob Gates was held over for President Obama's, when he came into office in 2009 AB. There are 2 now confirmed. Understanding that some of it has to do with paperwork and some of it has to do with vetting, and they have a right to ask questions. They don't have the votes, do they, to prevent anybody from not getting through?
No. A Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said, I thought quite brazenly, that he thought that there was a good chance that Dr. Price would not be confirmed as Health and Human Services Secretary, and I think that's laughable. I don't think they have enough to take Tom Price down. What's happening, and we've discussed this before, that the transition was sort of shocking. They didn't think they were going to win. It wasn't as up and going as perhaps Barack Obama's, front work might have been in 2008. It's hard to get this together. And there was some paperwork that was not finished on time, and that is essential, and it is a requirement. That said, what Democrats are doing is a flood the zone strategy, where they're trying to slow everybody down. Some of their questioning is impressive. It's not going to make a difference. And you see interest groups within the party vying to be a voice of influence in the party. So the environmentalists want to take a stab at Pruitt, while the teachers' unions need their say, and on and on. And it just has diluted their influence overall, and it is all in the end truly going to be of little substance, and he's going to get them all through.
But the people like Elaine Chao, who received zero pushback from Democrats for transportation secretary, Why isn't she going through? Or Ben Carson, who had also zero pushback.
Yeah, it's absolutely politics because they don't have any other choice. They have no other power in Washington but to sort of grandstand and make a big issue out of these things. I think it's interesting that the two people that they did choose to put through, Jim Mattis and John Kelly for DHS and Secretary of Defense, I think that they strategically were thinking, goodness, we don't want something bad to happen on our watch, and we haven't approved these two vitally important issues. I think it's partly why on Saturday we saw Trump go out to Langley, was to sort of put a punctuation point. Yeah, and what about my CIA director?
Right. Well, let's listen to President Trump at the CIA Saturday.
General Mattis, fantastic guy, and General Kelly got approved. Mike Pompeo was supposed to be in that group. It was going to be the three of them. Can you imagine all of these guys? People respect, they respect that military sense. All my political people, they're not doing so well. The political people aren't doing so well, but we're going to get them all through. But some will take a little bit longer than others.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that I love his talk about the strategic sense of all of this because, that is what I think Donald Trump's cabinet brings to the table that is so refreshing and different in an era, in a town that is completely governed by political correctness. These guys, all that goes out the window. All they care about is strategic thinking and strategic, working through things strategically.
Tom, Eisenhower's first cabinet, I happen to be studying a little bit about Eisenhower, 8 millionaires and a plumber, had outsiders, businessmen, and the head of the Plumbing Association was his labor secretary. So he is thinking outside the box, obviously Trump choosing more generals, because he's comfortable there.
He is, but I think one of the issues here is that you saw yesterday with President Trump at CIA, very interesting the degree to which, if one of his nominees had said some of these things, I think they would just be sort of laughed off the stage. But he is the president now. I think he's going to have to temper some of what he's saying if he wants to, give room to get these people through sooner rather than later. Because at CIA there really is anger and concern about the Russia issue. But I also think here, as much as Democrats write that they're, Schumer, the master fundraiser, is trying to use this to rebuild that donor base and get them excited again. There's a concern that I think aligned with Rubio, McCain, Graham in the Senate, again, specifically on the Russia issue. And I think what's most notable with Rubio, member of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, there's rationale for the pushback, all right, that goes behind the scenes, classified stuff that is motivating that real anger. And I think the Russia story, I think, is not over in terms of its connection point to the president. I think he knows that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
But Katie, quickly, what level is a Trump derangement syndrome that's still setting in?
If we're on a scale of 1 to 10, we're at 12. I think that Democrats have to be careful here when you have rioters in the streets this week burning things down, and then you have Democrats stonewalling nominees for clear political purposes, outside of the true concerns. They're going to look like they just can't move forward in accepting the election as they have for months, and voters will not reward them for it when it comes to election time again.
Next up, President Trump's campaign promises and the first 100 days.